Come on and lift up praise to the Lord tonight. We came to exalt him, for he alone.
Hello, this is Kenneth Clark. I want to welcome you to this broadcast I'm doing here. I'm down inside of a dried up brook. This brook has been dried up for some time. As you know, here in Texas, we're having a drought. We've gone 35, 36 days with the temperature going up to 100 plus 110. Talk to you about the brook that's drying up in your life, or the brook has already dried up. If I've got keys, and I've got keys that'll radically transform your life forever. I want to talk to you about Elijah. Elijah was on a mandate from the Spirit of God. God told Elijah, I want you to go down to the brook. I'm going to sustain you there. And I want you to drink water from the brook. And I'm going to send you 2 meals a day. You're like, wow. You know, Elijah couldn't get too comfortable in his faith. Kind of like we as humans in this day and time, we want to be comfortable in our faith. And God allows things to come into our life to shake us a little bit, to stir us up a little bit. And so what happened to Elijah? He obeyed the Spirit of God. This message will radically transform your life. If you'll stay tuned long enough to hear the words that I'm going to speak to you, and if you'll apply these principles to your life, you'll radically transform your brook into a river that's flowing. God says, I come to give you life, and I come to give it to you more abundantly. But it didn't look like that for Elijah. God was leading him to the brook, and then all of a sudden, the brook began to dry up. It dried up. It's like just about when, I bet you, when Elijah was getting comfortable, and he was getting 2 meals a day, and he was drinking all the water he can get his hands on, and then all of a sudden the brook dried up. You're like, wow. Man, why is this happening? I bet Elijah was thinking, why is this happening? Man, what is God trying to tell? You say, well, I don't have a literal brook that have dried up, but I've got things that I'm dry spiritually. I'm drying up financially. I'm drying up with my job is laying me off. I have been already laid off. Brook is your means. How you able to produce? And so what happened? What happened when these things begin to dry up? What do? You're probably freaking out. I don't know what to do. Stay tuned. I'm going to give you keys that Elijah did that's working in this day and time. Elijah had a word. You had a word to go to that job or do what you're doing, and now it's drying up. You say, well, why would God do it? God's ready to take you on to higher highs, deeper depth. He's ready to take you to a whole nother level. So Elijah heard the Spirit of God. He listened, and he obeyed. These are keys. You hear what God is saying to do. God says, I'm going to sustain you there. Just go. Just go. And Elijah obeyed the Spirit of God. And what happened? God kept his word. God says, my word will not return unto me void. He will keep his word. As long as you're keeping your word, God is a God that doesn't lie. He's going to provide for you. And what happened? Elijah, he heard and he obeyed. And then he put actions with all of that word. You need actions. You need to do what he's telling you to do. I don't know what he's telling you, but I know what he told Elijah. And then all of a sudden the brook dried up, and Elijah was like, wow, what am I going to do now? I bet you he was thinking, what am I going to do now? Paraphrasing this. And so God gave him another instruction. And what happened? He obeyed. God says, I want you to go to Zarephath. Because he needed provision. His provision was running out there. The brook is dried up. God says, go over to Zarephath. I've commanded a widow woman to feed you. He get over there, and he sees her picking up sticks. She was in the mindset, we're going to eat this, me and my sons, we're going to eat this, and we're going to die. And the prophet of God says, fetch me some water, and while you're at it, get me a little morsel of bread. And then that's when she told him, we're going to eat this, and we're going to die. He says, fear not. The crucible, your crucible all shall not run out, your barrel. It's good. You're going to be sustained with that word that came out of Elijah's mouth because you blessed and honored the prophet. God knows where you're at. God knows what you're up against. God sees it. But you gotta be listening. You're not only listening, but you gotta obey. You gotta obey what God's putting in your heart. And that's why I'm in this book here, giving you what it looks like for it to totally dry up. When it's dried up, you gotta move. You gotta march. You gotta march. You gotta march your way out of there with the instructions of God. These words will radically transform your life. I remember when my God leading me to new adventures in life, to a new career, and things started. I had a word to do it. Me and my wife at the time was in agreement, and we did it. It's like all hell broke loose when I made that quality decision to follow God. And it's like, man, where are you at? It was like things was drying up in my life. Physically, they were drying up. But I held on to that word. I kept that word deep in my heart. I kept believing it. I kept responding. Didn't know God had a business. A long story short, God allowed me to come out of my comfort because he was pushing me to higher heights, pushing me into a business I had no idea about. Didn't even dream about that. But God knew. He knew that I would obey him. You hear and you hear the word, and then you put actions. You put actions on what you believe in. What the Spirit of God has confirmed to your heart. Make sure he's confirming this to your life. And this word will help pull you out of the drought that your brook is dried up. It'll help you to be an overcomer in life. I want to thank you for stopping in on this video, and I release my faith. I'm in agreement that God's instructions are coming to you now. I release my faith. The Bible says where there's two in agreement, God's in the midst. God's going to come with instructions for you, and you be ready. And God, I thank you that you'll give us the courage to step out and do what you put in them to do. And I thank you, and I want to thank you for viewing this broadcast, and God bless you. Once again, I'm in Frisco, Texas, down inside of a brook, a dried up brook. A brook is a stream of fresh water running through, but it's dry. I'm getting ready to march up out of here. I'm going to put some action. I'm not only going to just hear, I'm going to put action. I'm going to get my steps going. That's what you do. You hear and you obey. And I want to thank you.
We cry holy.